Hey everybody, and welcome to another video where I try to simplify something not so simple. Today we're going to be doing Tamagoyaki, a Japanese rolled omelet. You're going to see some ingredients in a minute here that I know you're not going to have in your pantry, and I'm going to give you substitutions for them. Japanese soy sauce is the one thing that you can't substitute really though. That would be mirin, what I just showed you right there. However, I have a substitution for that because no one has that. There's some sugar and some black pepper. I'm doing two different versions of this today. The first version that I'm going to be doing is a sweet version of it, which is the one you would normally find on a tamago nigiri sushi or in any type of sushi restaurant for that matter. The other one is more what I would find on the street in Japan from a Tamagoyaki vendor. Now, I spent quite a bit of time in Japan, and this is actually one of the street foods that I kind of fell in love with. Right there, I'm digging out an eggshell. It's something that I had in one of the fish markets, and it was a cold day, and they were just grilling it up right on the side of the street. It was phenomenal. Total price is usually about $1 to $2 maximum, and they serve you this giant thing on a stick. This is the mirin that I was talking about. You can substitute extra sugar instead of this. So instead of the tablespoon of this plus a dash of sugar, just substitute in about a tablespoon and a dash of sugar itself. About a tablespoon of Japanese soy sauce, and that goes for both. It's about a tablespoon of Japanese soy sauce in both of these recipes. 4 eggs. The reason for MSG, besides the fact that I enjoy it, is it adds in umami flavor. Normally you would get this from something called dashi powder. It is a powder that's used to create dashi stock in Japan. Now, dashi stock is essentially bonito fish flavoring, but it adds a lot of flavor to your dish. Then what you want to do is whip up your eggs. I'm starting with chopsticks, but I switched to a whisk because I know that not everybody's comfortable with chopsticks. Now, the consistency you want for this is incredibly smooth. Make sure that there's no sugar or anything like that on the bottom of it. And then this is where I switched over to the whisk. It's definitely easier, and some people I know don't actually even have chopsticks in their house. Now, I transfer this to a pourable container. It just makes the process a lot easier for doing the omelet itself. Now, I whip up the second batch immediately, and you can do the same thing if you wanted to do both of these at once, but you definitely don't have to. I would normally only do one of these, and that would be enough for dinner for 2. Now, with the savory one, you don't want to add the garlic chive like I've got right there on the cutting board. The garlic chive you want to sprinkle layer by layer as you do the omelet. As you can see, I added some pepper there. Whip it up the same as the other one. Now, you don't have to use garlic chives. I just happen to have those available to me in the herb garden right now. You can use chives from the store, you can use green onion, just make sure it's diced very finely. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I kind of screwed this first one up a little bit. You'll see that I pull out a paper towel and I saturate it in oil, and you want to use that to wipe the pan in between every layer. It's going to make it much easier for you to manipulate the omelet. And that was where I screwed up. Well, part of where I screwed up. tested the pan to see if it was hot enough, and I knew it was too hot, but yet I poured anyway. I should have waited a second and cooled the pan down a little bit. The difficulty when you're making a sweet tamagoyaki is sugar caramelizes quickly. So you tend to need to do this at a lower heat, and that is exactly what I didn't do. So you'll notice it's very brown. It's not burnt, and the camera makes it look darker than it is, but it is much more brown than I wanted it to be. And I wanted to show with chopsticks how difficult it actually is to do the rolling, because normally I would use that when I actually make tamagoyaki, because I would normally use my tamagoyaki pan, which I know 99% of North America is not going to own. So switch to a silicone spatula, and it will make your life 100 times easier. Now you want to roll it up and keep it as uniform as possible. And you kind of want this oval log. Now you'll see I did not use oil, and it's being a little bit temperamental because of it. It's not sliding as easily, even though it's a non-stick pan, and it's a relatively new non-stick pan. It's not doing exactly what I want it to. At the end of when I did that one, I left a little bit of a flap down. Make sure you get the egg into that seam of that flap, because by doing that, it'll actually meld the egg together and make it so that you can continuously roll this. Now I sped this part up just for time, obviously, and you don't want to be sitting here for 45 minutes watching me do eggs. But you keep doing this, roll after roll after roll. This one really didn't come out how I wanted it to. The next one comes out much better. This one will actually crack. It's a temperamental omelet. That's when I remembered that I was doing things wrong and started finally oiling again. Now, another thing with these, if you're doing a sweet one, try it with a little less sugar to start and see where your sweet spot is, no pun intended. Some people like this almost syrupy sweet. I like it a little less so, which is why I don't use as much as others. But you can always make it to taste. And since this is actually such an affordable dish to make, being that it's only 4 eggs and a little bit of sauce, you can always try again, and you can do it quite frequently as well. This holds up great for lunches. It holds up amazingly well for prepping breakfasts for a couple days. Just an overall excellent dish to have. And honestly, I probably had it every other day when I was in Japan. Which says a lot. I ate a lot of eggs there because I was there for quite a while. Now for this one, this is where I was saying you want to make sure you're just sprinkling a little bit at a time. Now you can use other ingredients in this. Just make sure they're very fine and you use them sparingly. You don't want to overload this like an American style omelet. And you'll see that the color on this one is far more accurate and correct. It should just be very faintly browned. And I'll flatten this one out a little bit because it was rolling up a little bit too much like a roll. You want it a little bit more oval-like. And a lot of this is all just basically waiting and repetition. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. In the future, I may end up doing a video where I'll actually pull out my Tamagoyaki pan and I'll do it properly with the pressing of the tamago in the pan and making it a perfect rectangle. It gives a better presentation, but overall the flavor is very much the same. and just keep rolling it up like this. In the background, what I don't show you is that I do have a pot of rice cooking. Again, a rice cooker is one of those things that I really think is kind of a kitchen necessity. You can get them for as little as $15 at Walmart. And it kind of takes the guesswork out of cooking rice. The other thing I have off to the side that isn't in picture is a tomato. It's just chilled. That's kind of one of those things in Japan that in the later spring, early summer, and through the summertime, it's kind of one of the most popular side dishes that I have there. It's nice and refreshing. They just serve it basically quartered up with some Kewpie mayo on it, or around on the side. Now, when you get to the end of this, I like to seal the edges, which you will see me doing. If you don't have fingertips of steel and the temperature does bother you, use a pair of tongs to hold it up on its side for a couple seconds, just to seal the edges off. Seam split right there, as you can see, so I just poured a little bit of the remaining liquid into it, and then that way when I do the final flip over, it'll actually seal it shut. While this is a simple dish, it does take time. So I don't recommend doing this if you're kind of short on time. Worst case scenario though, if you screw this up, it just turns into a big pile of scrambled eggs. It could be a lot worse. And this is where I was talking about sealing off the sides. But realistically, this is it. There's not a whole lot to this. Now, you can always take these out, let them chill, and throw them in the fridge as an entire log. It'll actually hold together a lot better for when you're cutting them. But since this was for dinner and it was dinner time, I didn't cool them. As you can see, I took the end off the one log. I wanted to taste it. Plus, I always say that the ends are the chef's special. Now, each one of these, if you don't count the ends where I've squared off, will give you 8 slices. Now, you'll be able to see on this one, the layers on this one are very dark, and that's just because of the pan issues. Again, it didn't really impact the flavor at all. It just impacted the appearance more than anything and made it kind of look like a cinnamon roll of an egg. You can see this one's still steaming when I hold it up. Again, square the ends off. And this is just for presentation reasons. It's no other reason. I try to make it look a little bit more like it came out of an actual Tamagoyaki pan. And again, cut into 8. And since it was just 2 of us, I served 4 of the sweet, 4 of the savory, with some rice and the tomato. And this is one hearty dinner. Now, you can always double it up like I did here, and you will have lunch for the next day as well. But that is that. That's my take on a Tamagoyaki without having all the tools for it. If you do want to see me take on a proper tamagoyaki, let me know. I'll definitely look into it. I have the pan to do it. I can also do takoyaki. I can do taiyaki. I have many of the unique little pans that you can only kind of get in Japan. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If there's anything you want to see in the future, let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.